More tips, tricks, and techniques to look your best for online meetings. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Clear. Get to the front of the line faster, safer, touchless. Get 2 months of Clear free at clearme.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is part 2 in a 2-part conversation with Jeff Carlson about some of his research and an article he recently penned about looking your best for online meetings, Zoom, Skype, Teams, whatever, using your DSLR. This time around, we start to get into a little more of the hardware discussion, but also a few more tips and techniques that you can use that will set you above the competition. So let's go right back and let Jeff do the talking.
There's a great Twitter account, and I think it's called Rate My Skype Room, at Rate My Skype Room. And if you haven't seen it, it's great because basically they take screenshots of, usually like the people who are on the news, people who are on TV, celebrities, and we'll just rate it, like give it a number out of 10 and comment. And, quite often you'll see, maybe somebody who's high up in the government, but they look like they're on their laptop and, they're positioned so that like you only see part of them or they're looking down because the laptop is like showing most of the ceiling, and so this Twitter account, which I'm sure just started off as a lark, now, we'll mention like camera placement, and it's nice that you've got some plants in the background and you've got good balance and good depth and all this. And what's funny is the celebrities and the news people who also follow this, like they will change their setup and, based on this feedback. And so, maybe in, March, it sort of looked like somebody was making a hostage video. And then in late May, they had like much better light, and they had, a bookshelf or moved to a different room, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, you're right. And it's been an interesting evolution over the past year because of the pandemic, that some people really do get it. And they've made some efforts to upgrade their game. And others, no matter how many times I suggest, please don't put your nice bright picture window behind you. They just can't help it. And so as a result, they look like they're constantly in witness protection.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help your credibility. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, context is everything. If you want to get a better image, you do have to work for it. And so part of the reason for this article and the others that I've written are, all right, like here are the things that you can do and here are the things that you should know in advance. Because it would be so easy to say, okay, you want to look really good. All right, go and buy this $700 camera and this $500 lens and these, $200 LED panels, and you're going to need this cam link, like you could just sort of drop that. And in fact, part of what we did in this article was, sort of give some general numbers like, okay, if you're going to start from scratch, expect to pay maybe this much. If you have a DSLR in a drawer that would work, then, subtract that amount. Just to kind of give people an idea. But it's not like, I've got a laptop with a webcam and I can open it up and turn it on. Like, obviously that works, but it's probably not going to look as good. In fact, I can do a little quick comparison, perhaps. It says I can't change devices while recording. Okay, never mind.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to show that today.
Okay.
But, it's I think it's really easy to get mediocre but acceptable results. And you can put in a little bit of work and a little bit of money and get much better results if you know how to do it. And so part of this this education is also, look, I've tested these things out. I've looked at some various options, and, I would recommend, yes, you can absolutely connect a USB cable and use the free software, but it's likely going to be frustrating. So get a cam link and an HDMI cable, and that, makes your life 50% easier in terms of doing this. Because then we also have to remember, like, this is just the setup to make something look good. Like, I want you focused on not, oh, is my camera working? Does it have enough power? Is it overheating? Is the lighting right? Like, you just want that set so that you can focus on the meeting or the presentation or, whatever you need to do.
So let's see. We've talked about lighting. I do want to touch on that for just a second, though.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on these the ring lights that we see so many people using or so many people pushing? Now I know I'm not sure exactly what you have. I have 2 LED panels up on stands, but the ring lights seem to be so popular. And folks, if you haven't seen them, they are just that. They are a light ring. Jeff apparently is going to pull one out of his hat.
The other side of writing these has been I've had to accumulate a whole bunch of stuff. So it's literally like a ring, and if I have a power source that's easy to find, I do not.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I mean,
Okay.
But the idea is that the camera shoots. Yeah, the idea the camera shoots. You put the camera behind the ring light like Jeff is doing now, and so it's giving your face, at least in theory, a nice even light, and definitely, and I've seen mixed results in my opinion, Jeff, but what's your opinion of the ring lights?
So in my opinion, actually, like a ring light can be really good because, and especially something that's a little bit larger. You can get some that are only, maybe like a few inches in diameter. In general, when you're working with light, if you have a larger light source, you're going to end up with softer light. So I also have, I think we have the exact same brand of LED panels. So I have an LED panel that's like 13 inches tall by maybe 14 or 15 inches wide, just 2 rectangles sitting up here.
That's about right.
That I can control like the amount of light and the color of the light, and that's really nice and can give me a pleasing effect. Having a slightly bigger ring light will give you sort of more light, so it's not nearly as focused on you, so you don't look like you're in a spotlight. And so, yeah, if in a lot of situations a ring light works great, except if you have glasses. And that's the thing. I have glasses, and so if I had this and if it was turned on, every time I looked at the camera, because the camera's shooting through the ring light, I would look like I was possessed. In fact, one of the articles at Reincubate that talks about lighting and that sort of setup, I have pictures of me, and like it just reflects and looks like I have demon eyes. And again, you don't want the other person on the end thinking, wow, they look really bad and crazy. And every once in a while you'll see celebrities with glasses, and the ring light will sort of bounce in and out as they move their head, and it's just distracting. So if you don't wear glasses, it can be a great option. If you do wear glasses, it's not so good.
Yeah. And you just kind of skipped over there the idea of controlling the color of your LEDs. There's some ring lights that will let you do that. There's some ring lights that just are fluorescent blast, and those are the kind of you'll probably find for like $14.99 in a department store somewhere. And it's like, no, don't waste your money. Really, it's not worth it. It's because then you don't come out looking possessed. You look like you're in a lineup or something. It just is not a good look at all.
Yeah. I think the one that I just dropped on the floor. I think that was probably maybe $35, and that's kind of mid-range. And it has, I want to say, 2 or 3 just preset colors. So I can't, like turn a dial and make it warmer or softer. Warmer or cooler. But I can say like, I want sort of bluish light, or I want orangish light, or I want just kind of straight whitish light. So, and of course, this being a photographically adjacent industry, you can spend a whole lot more for things that are much more complicated. But again, do you really need to?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did lights, we did power, we did lenses, I think to your satisfaction. If not, jump in if there's anything else we should know about lenses. What haven't we touched on, Jeff, that folks should be aware of?
So one thing that I'll mention about lenses, and this also applies to cameras too, is focus. So one of the nice things about a lot of webcams, and actually the iPhone is great at this too, is it's very good at keeping you in focus. Because again, it doesn't have a real shallow depth of field. It has a real deep depth of field. And so that means, like anything from here to back here will just be in focus. Now, with my camera here, you'll notice as I put my hand in front of me, my hand is not in focus. And that's because I chose to set the camera into manual focus, so that basically I want to say like, a couple of inches in front of me, and probably like the depth of my head, like that is in focus. So that, as I move around, as long as I don't move forward and backward a lot, then I'm going to be basically in focus. Some cameras can actually track your focus, and that can be really good, especially if you do move around, or if you're in a position where maybe there's more depth in the scene, and some cameras, the Sony cameras especially, are really good at this. They use AI to notice where your face is, and it focuses on your eye, and you can actually track where you are, and it automatically adjusts the autofocus for that. There's a video example of that in the article. But some cameras just aren't as good at that. And so you may run into a situation where, maybe you're talking or whatever, and for whatever reason, the camera decides to focus on a book behind you. Because to it's like, okay, well, that's like, I've found good enough contrast to focus on that, and it's sort of sitting there, it's not moving, so that must be the thing to be in focus. Well, then, you're doing your meeting and you're out of focus, and again, it becomes distracting. Or there are some cameras that are, and actually some lenses that just focus more slowly. So if you are moving, it may have to hunt for focus, and you get this sort of this shift. It's called lens breathing, where the edges of the frame are actually moving as the lens moves in and out trying to get the focus. And so again, that could also be distracting. My X-T3 does a pretty good job, but some lenses that I have focus faster. The autofocus motor is just better. Some of them don't. And so for something like this, where I'm not moving around, I'm basically staying in this spot right here, it makes more sense for me to just put it on manual focus and leave it at that. But autofocus is definitely something that you're going to want to play with. And, if you have a nice fast lens and a camera that can handle it, then you don't have to worry about it. And, that can also be good. Like, say, you have something that you want to show on the camera, you would like put it close to the camera, and then the camera would automatically focus on that. And then, you move it, and then it would find the focus back on you again. It depends on what you're looking for, what you need. For our conversation here, it's really, we're talking heads talking to each other. So I don't really need complicated autofocus. But if you have bad autofocus, you really notice it. If you have good autofocus, you probably don't notice it, and that's fine. And if you can just put it in manual focus, then you don't have to worry about it. And again, like that's a distraction that's no longer part of the equation.
Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Clear. Get to the front of the line faster, safer, and touchless with Clear. I'm not a big fan of standing in lines, and I bet you aren't either. So when we can avoid them, it's always a good thing. Clear does just that in some of the longest lines out there, the airport lines. With Clear, all you need is your face and your eyes to be identified as who you are. No more juggling your wallet or purse, no more digging out your ID, or then being concerned later that maybe you didn't put it back where it belongs. Just go through the Clear line, be recognized, and you are cleared to go. And Clear doesn't just work at airports. Clear is now at stadiums, concert spaces, offices, restaurants, and other places where lines are a barrier to what you want to enjoy. Over 5 million people are already using Clear for seamless experiences worldwide. You can and should be the next to sign up. You start the sign-up process now, online, and then finish it at the airport, and use Clear right then and there to get your trip started right. Clear is the absolute best way to help you get back to what you love. They have locations in over 35 airports across the country, making it even safer, easier, and faster to reunite with loved ones or take that much-needed vacation. It works great with PreCheck, too. And right now, for a limited time, you can get your first 2 months of Clear for free. Go to clearme.com/MacVoices and use the code MacVoices. That's Clear, CLEAR, me.com/MacVoices, and the code MacVoices for your first 2 months of Clear for free. clearme.com/MacVoices and the code MacVoices. Sign up now, check in at the airport, and go enjoy your vacation. Thanks to Clear for their support of MacVoices. You've probably seen the lens breathing thing on some Skype calls, because that I won't tell you which computers or which programs do it, but you can tell that somebody has maybe leaned forward for a second, then leaned back, and you can tell the camera's struggling. It's like, oh, where's he going to land? Which one should I do? Another thing, though, that I don't think I've ever done this intentionally on the show. I think it's happened once or twice unintentionally. But my camera, I will do the focus thing, and then I get a little box around myself. And it'll stay there now for a little while as it tries to figure out just exactly how, where I should be. And in a minute, it'll go away. I bring it up only, as Jeff said, for convenience sake. If you have a camera like this and you don't have it in a regular position, it means you're going to want to get on that call a minute and a half early, hit that focus button, and make sure that you're looking good before you connect with the other person. Because otherwise, it looks like you're being sought out by a sniper or something, and it's distracting at the very least.
I was going to say, put a red filter on this, and I feel like I'm the Terminator looking at you through my Terminator goggles. Actually, this brings up another good point, in that it would be tempting to say you could use any old camera, but one thing that you want to look for if you're using a mirrorless or a digital DSLR is whether it has clean HDMI out. And what that means is, if you have, sometimes what the camera will output is just basically what it puts on the LCD on the back of the screen, which, in most cases is perfectly fine. So it's just passing along that signal. But what's typically also on the back of the LCD screen is the, all the stuff around it, like the focus box and how many shots you have left, and a light meter, like all that stuff around the edges. Some cameras, you just can't get rid of it, and so you may get a nice, high resolution, well lit, wonderful image out of that camera. But if you can't get rid of all that stuff, everybody's going to think that they're, operating your camera, or like it's super, super distracting. I have a friend who he has a, I want to say it's like a Sony model that, he picked up just as a small snapshot camera. It works great for that. And he's like, oh, I'll just repurpose this. And he cannot turn that off. And I know that on some older Canon DSLRs, you can't turn that off unless there's an unauthorized hack that you add to the firmware of the camera. And basically, if you put the words hack and firmware together, unless you really want to, be adventurous, I stay away from that. Like, I don't want to fry my camera just because I want to get rid of that kind of stuff. So that's one of the things to keep in mind is, see if it has clean HDMI out. Sometimes it'll say you might just have to do an internet search to see if that's possible.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those cameras, and that's why I'm using this one, because God knows why it doesn't make any sense, because those cameras are video capable. They have HDMI out. So in the days before the pandemic, I would want to take and send the video from the camera out maybe to a monitor or to a big screen. Mm-hmm. Why would I want the controls showing up on that? But it does. Yeah, that's a great point, Jeff. That's a really great point. Okay, clean HDMI we add to the list.
You see, like this is the whole reason for doing an article like this, because you dig into it, you're like, oh, I needed to think about this too. We can also talk a little bit about video quality, because most mirrorless, like modern mirrorless or DSLR cameras, will shoot 4K video. And of course, your first thought is, 4K, like that's really good resolution. That's what my TV does. And so I'm going to look fantastic because I'm in 4K resolution. Well, that's the idea, except there are a lot of reasons why that wouldn't work. So for example, 4K is a massive amount of data. So trying to push 4K worth of data over an internet connection, especially a home internet connection frequently, it's just too much. So it'll either, slow down or lose frames or just not work. And so even though your camera may be 4K capable, you probably won't get any 4K resolution, especially if you're using Zoom. So Zoom, in fact, it has a little checkbox in there, I think, that says like use HD, which is great, except to Zoom, HD is 720p resolution. So I think what we are at right now is 1080p, which is HD or full HD. It's also called FHD. And, that's sort of a good, it's high resolution, but the amount of data is enough so that it can, get sent without a whole lot of difficulty. So even if you have a really nice, wonderful picture going into your camera and then your camera to your computer, well, that video then has to go up to, say, Zoom servers. And so that's going to get downsampled and compressed. And in fact, it may not even be 720p. It may be 360p, which is less than HD, because especially like at peak times, and this came about again because everybody suddenly was doing school and work at home. Like the internet just couldn't keep up with all that data, and so they throttled everything down. There's a screen in the Zoom settings, and I'm sure the same thing might appear in other Teams and things like that. I haven't looked, that will tell you what your current resolution is, and so you may be seeing a nice crisp 1080p signal. The person on the other end is probably seeing your nice lighting, but it's going to be massively lower resolution. and there's really nothing you can do about that. And in fact, one of the things that I found with my friend in Portland, because he had a Sony camera that was set to 4K, and it kind of looked good, except that there was a lot of sort of moire effects and some pixelation. And because I think either his camera or his computer was trying to break that down into something more manageable to send. And so when he changed his camera settings to 1080p, even though everything coming through was getting converted to 1080p, when the camera was 1080p, it matched more what the computer was expecting, and the image was much better. So there's a good video comparison, and you can see like the edges of his hair just it shimmers weirdly because the computer is trying to compress all that data down, and by setting it to 1080p, it basically didn't have to do all that work, and so the image looked much better. So resolution is one of those things where you're like, yeah, I want a 4K camera. Great. It's never going to use 4K on these kind of calls. It's great if you're just recording locally and you can do stuff with it, but don't get hung up on, ooh, it's 4K. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you are not running a TV studio here, folks. I mean,
no
matter how much you'd like to, it's just not. And I love the fact that we've kind of wrapped up here, Jeff, on a geeky note, because some of that, geeky in the sense that we're talking
totally geeky.
Not totally, but enough that again, the audience we're talking to with this particular show is one that may understand that because they're going for something a little bit more than just what came with their computer, whatever their computer is, Mac, PC, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, very good. Very good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have links in the show notes to make sure that you can go right to Jeff's article, and I encourage you to do it because it's going to have examples of all kind of the things that we've been talking about. And I'm sure there are a few other things in there that we didn't get to just because of the nature of this. So, Jeff, I've been thinking about this the whole interview. What's next with you? I mean, are you going to be showing us? Yeah, are you going to be showing us how to use our drone cameras as our webcam?
That would be crazy. I mean, good Lord, it's probably possible.
I see the wheels turning. I see the wheels turning, folks. I love it.
At one point, I did think of this, but here's the thing, and this is like as much a Hollywood thing as anything. The camera in a drone is actually really pretty good, and quite honestly, like. If you have nothing else, I believe it is probably possible. I guess it would depend on how, the connection part would be tough, but you could plop your drone right on top of a desk or something and just have the camera pointed at you. Like that's probably fine. Or maybe the drone is connected to the drone software on your phone, and that's connected to your computer. Yes, it's a dangerous thought. Let's say for my friends at Reincubate, here's something to think about for maybe a new product category. But when you said that, no, I was thinking of drone just like hovering right in front of me, and the problem, of course, is sound. I don't know if my microphone is picking this up, but my 16-inch MacBook Pro, it's the fan is going and it's fairly loud to me, and so just to have like a drone in here going would be it might fall on that scale of nice video, totally distracting. But it's that Hollywood thing where whenever you see a drone in movies or TV shows, like it's got a little sound. I remember I was watching, I think it was the show Daredevil on Netflix, And, they had a guy controlling a drone that was helping Daredevil go through the woods and finding bad guys, and the drone is like this high above him. And of course, it's quiet. It's like, no, if you have a drone, you are not sneaking up on anyone. Trust me. But yeah, maybe that's the April Fool's re-incubate article, how to connect your drone. Although, quite honestly, someone on YouTube has probably done it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the truth of the matter is Jeff and I are both going to go and try to see if we can connect our drone cameras next. And then, so what we'll do, Jeff, is we'll take the drone and we'll hang it from a fish line. Take the rotors off so it looks like they're spinning, and then we've got it, and just. And the stabilization won't be quite perfect on the fish line, but that's okay because that'll look like it's a real drone.
Well, you hang the fishing line from your ceiling fan, and you move the ceiling fan really slow, so it looks like it's orbiting.
Okay, I think the interview's over because we're way.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, this has been fun. It's fun. I hope it's been informational for folks, because I think that there are people out there that do have the desire to look just a little bit better, and they may already have the gear in hand. I'm not sure it's something that, unless you do podcasting or something like I do, folks, that you want to invest in any DSLR, high end or low end. But at the same time, it definitely does make a difference.
Yeah. Well, and again, because it's photography, you could spend, $80,000 on a red camera, a red cinema camera, and I've seen there are people on YouTube who use them to do their podcasting and things like that, and God bless you if you have the money to do that. But, most of us don't really have a huge amount of money that we want to spend, or maybe we want to know where to spend that money in a smart way. And that's where something like this, I think, becomes helpful, because, you could throw money all around, but you can get a really good setup with a really good image, and you don't have to spend a massive amount or go out and buy a brand new camera. And you'll see in the images, there are some cases where the iPhone, looks just as good or, better than sort of what the baseline would be for most other cameras. One thing we didn't really touch on, but I can just mention briefly, is the advantage with the iPhone camera is it's not just that it's a decent camera, it's that you have literally years and years and billions of dollars of research and development going into this camera. And so you get a small sensor and, small lenses and all of that, but you also get to take advantage of all of the image processing and the way the camera is basically blending images in order to make a good overall exposure. And, all of that technology is light years ahead of, just a standalone webcam or even the camera built into your camera. And that can make a huge difference if you're like, you know what, I have this old iPhone 8 lying around that I'm no longer using. I can just prop that up, plug it in, stick it on a tripod. It doesn't have to move. It can be like your setup where the camera's just always there. And when you have a call, you just turn it on and there you go. And it looks light years better than, what you would get from your built-in camera. So that also works. So, definitely go check out all the pictures and the examples, because you might say, yeah, I would love to have this nice depth of field, and I would love to have, all the stuff that Jeff's been talking about, but I don't have the money for that. I don't have the time. I don't, have the setup. I don't want to do the setup. I can get something that's 80% of this ideal using just my iPhone, my old iPhone, and this software, and boom.
Agreed. I know we have a couple of things to talk about in future shows, Jeff, that are completely different subjects. But until then, where can folks find you?
Go to jeffcarlson.com. I'll have a link to the article that I wrote there. That's also where, I have recent articles and things. I co-host a podcast with Kirk McElern called Photoactive, which is photoactive.co. And because I've been around long enough, my Twitter and my Instagram are both at Jeff Carlson. I was able to snag my name early. So those are probably the best places to find me.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. And of course, I'll make sure I have those in the show notes as well. So if you have questions or comments on this or Jeff's article or whatever, reach out to him. I know he would appreciate it.
Definitely.
Jeff, thank you. We will do it again. This has been so much fun.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me on.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. We'll be back with more soon. But until then, go and see maybe what cameras you have laying around the house and what you can do with them. And if nothing else, check out Reincubate and Camo, because I know you have an iPhone, right? You have to have an iPhone. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.